Hi guys, it's Rowan Zeesing here, and we're going to run through another way of doing an animation walk cycle. We're going to look at animating the limbs and the body separately, just to get more of an understanding of how the biomechanics work, and it is also a different way, different workflow to pose. So before starting though, what I want to do is I want to set up we're doing a 24 frame walk cycle, but we're going to work with 25 frames. So frame 1 and frame 25 will be the same, but when we've got the finished product, you're never going to see 25. It's always going to continually loop, and we're not going to get a double up of frames playing together. So to start with, what we need to do is actually lower this character down, because what I want to do is put some placeholder animation on the legs to begin with. So at frame 1, I'm going to move one leg forward and then round it off a little bit, and do the same for the other end. And select both of them and key selected. I've got auto key on, so it's going to automatically key when we do things. Copy that key, paste it frame 25, and in the middle is going to be opposite. So and it doesn't matter if these are 100% correct, because yeah, they're just placeholder at the moment. And the other thing I want to do is put in an initial passing position. So at around frame 7, back foot to front. So let's actually key selected here, key selected, key selected, and put in passing position. It doesn't matter, it's just placeholder, key selected, and frame 19, it's about the middle, so lift it up. So they're just placeholders at the moment. And the other thing I want to do is make this cycle. So we're going to go curves, post infinity, cycle, and pre-infinity cycle. If you, we'll just bring this up big so you guys can see it. You can see a dotted line at the beginning and the end of this. If this is not the case on your machine, that's because infinity isn't turned on. So what you need to do is go to, in your graph editor, view infinity, and there's a little checkbox. You can turn it off and you don't have any infinity, and you can turn it on, and that's that little dotted line. And so now if we go curves, cycle, and because we're going to be doing this cycling a lot, you can actually hit this dotted line above and it breaks out the little box. So curves pre-infinity, curves post-infinity. I'm going to grab both of them, pull them down low just so I can see them very easily, and go cycle and cycle. So now if we zoom in, you can see we've got it going on forever. So before and after. So now we'll just get in there. Awesome. So now we've got this cycling going on. Right, and now we've got this placeholder in place. Now it's time to jump ahead and animate the hips. One more thing just before we do, we're going to grab both of these and change the Z to linear. It's going to make it easier to lock things down later, and basically while the foot's sliding across the floor, it's at a constant speed underneath the body, which is kind of what we want. Okay, the hips. When animating the hips, it doesn't really matter how you go about it, whether you animate X, Y, Z, up, down, left, right first, or it just depends on your personal preference, but we're going to get the movements in there. And for a character such as this, one of the more obvious movements will be the up and down. So that'll be the Y translate. So where we'll start, so the first thing we'll do is find the contact frame in the middle, and we already kind of figured that out before. It's going to be around frame 13, so where the foot bang hits the ground. So usually what happens is 1 or 2 frames before that happens will be the apex of the height, depending on your character. It might be three frames, but usually 1 or 2. So frame 13, let's go frame 11, and I'm going to key selected on the Y and just lift him up. So this is going to be the highest point, and this is just placeholder. Once again, you're going to build on this. This is just to get things roughed out very quickly. So that's the highest point, and then usually what happens is the foot touches the ground with the heel, and then about 2 frames later is where it slaps onto the ground. And that, either on that instance or straight after, so on frame either, so 2 or 3 frames after, on the slap or a frame after the slap is when he'll be at his lowest point. So I'm just going to do it on the slap of the foot. So some people call that the down, but yeah, we're just going to call it the slap. And then because we've got the high and the low, we can grab the high again. So if frame 13 is here, it's 2 frames before that, we can just copy and put that 2 frames before the end. So on about frame 23. And now we can hit our cycles again, and we can watch them just bob up and down. Whoa, yeah, look at that. Awesome.
The hip is in the high position.
Now the other thing we've got is the rotation. The next thing we can move on to is the rotation. So usually at the contact point, it will be he'll be rotated back a bit. Whoop, a little bit too much. So let's rotate X. And it doesn't matter that the legs are lifting off the ground. We'll adjust all that later. Key selected. And then as he goes through past the contact point, through the contact point will be around where he'll be at his most forward. So there's kind of this follow through of him getting height, and then he crashes down into landing into the foot, and he follows through it before turning up again. So at the moment I've got it on that contact point, so we can actually copy that and put that on frame 25, because we've got frame 13, which is our contact, to frame 25. So that's 12 frames along there. And we can paste, cycle, bang, bang. So now he's got a little bit of a bob going on there. Now as he lifts up through, you can do either or, but I'm going to have him kind of a yaw as he pushes up with his leg. his other hip is going to, so he's going to actually tilt into that. So all the power is actually twisting. He's putting so much power into the movement up. He is going to be twisting. So once again, at the highest point is where I want it. He'll have a bit of a rotation, and I might actually just make that -5. And I'm going to key selected on there. So that's at that highest point again. So on frame 11, I'm going to make that opposite. So make that 5. And what we do at the front, we do at the back. So from one passing position to the other. Let's have a look at that. And so I want frame 23, frame 11. So it will either be minus or plus. So let's always stick with the plus. So it's 12 frames from here to here, so it'll be another 12 frames along. So one easy way of cheating that is, because we've got this time slider, we can move the time slider along so it's at frame 11, which is our start point, and then we automatically know that frame 35 should be the end point. So let's put in 5 again, and that gives us, and we can cycle it. Bang bang. The other thing we want to do is we're wanting as the foot swings through, it's going to be stretching out to get to the contact point. So what we want to do is, we've already got the contact, so we can just turn it. So maybe 15. Let's just undo that. So at frame 1, which is our contact point, for some reason it's wanting to rotate this Y. So key selected on the Y, let's make that 15, because 15 is a good number. On the other contact point, -15, and on our far one, 15. Something funky's going on here. Anyway, we'll cycle that. Yeah, so I'm not quite happy with how those hips are going, so I might actually shift this down a bit to frame 7. Let's see if that improves it. So I've just moved those rotation points to the passing position. And we can even give it a go to see if, say, frame 19, it actually looks better this way, where he's kind of reaching over. And I think I know what's going on here. For some reason I had a key there. That's one of the reasons why it was looking so funky. I had an extra key where I didn't want it. Awesome. So that's pretty much the hip rotations and movement going. One of the things that sometimes happens is, and depending on your character, you sometimes do get a little bit of forward and backwards rotation. So as they push up and then catch themselves, they're actually going in between a slight forward momentum and backwards momentum. Not always the case. So if we go to translate Y, (11 to 19) and then 7. Cycle, cycle. But that's probably a huge amount. I'm going to make it really, really subtle and move that right down. Probably even subtler. I'm just going to scale that. So with most characters, it's almost, you almost can't see it. In other characters, it's a little bit more pronounced, but usually not so much. And then the last thing I'm going to do is quickly go in and on the passing positions, so 7 and 19, we have to shift the balance. So 7, (2.5) will do. Key selected, 0.25, and then do the opposite, so that his balance is shifting from one foot to the other. And then for it to cycle properly, we need to go from 19 to, I think, 31. Yep, 31. And then you can either copy or paste. And then cycle. So already that's looking like a reasonable walk cycle. And you can change the scale and adjustment to if you think he's over too exaggerated or anything like that. Right. Now we'll get on to actually fine tuning the legs.